The information presented on this podcast are that of the guest and of my own personal views, opinions, and research on the subject matter, and do not represent those of the Humanity Project as a whole. So,
viewer discretion is advised.
Buckle up and hold on to your seats because the revolution of reality has begun. Hey everybody, Charlie here with our second podcast. Today's podcast is brought to you by, let's say, Zio's Pizza. Zio's Pizza brought to you today this podcast because they helped feed everybody today at lunchtime. And everybody loved their pizza.
Yeah, it was delicious.
It was awesome, eh?
Yeah, it was.
So today's guest is Randy. He's 26 years old, and he's a friend of ours who likes to travel. And he's just on his way across country, so I thought I'd ask him to come be a guest on our show. So,
couldn't say no.
Welcome, my friend.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
So, how long you been traveling?
What, a grand total or just in general?
Just grand total, like how long you been on the road?
Well, I've been living a vagrant lifestyle for about 10 years.
10 years?
Yeah, since
How
I was
old are
about
you?
16.
So since you were 16, you've been traveling?
Yeah.
You've probably met a lot of interesting people?
Oh, yeah. There's, when I say I've met my fair share of clowns, I don't mean idiots. I mean I've actually met my fair share of clowns.
Yeah.
Like professional performers.
Really?
Yeah. I stayed a few summers with a camp of gypsies. Literally.
Where was that at?
Oh, that was just outside of a place called Ayr, Ontario.
Ayr, Ontario?
Yeah, just outside of Kitchener.
How was that?
Wasn't too bad. Learned how to do roofing.
Nice.
I also learned that a lead is a good thing to have unless you tie it wrong.
Yeah?
Yeah, I tied mine up the wrong way and it slipped up off my hips and onto my back when I fell off a roof.
Well, the one thing about that is, you usually only make that mistake once, and it's either a bad mistake and you end up dying from it, or you end up hurting yourself and you learn to tie it off properly again.
Well, I slipped 3 discs in my lower back. So.
When you did it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I fell off a 12-foot barn. It was just a patch of dew about a big around as a pop can. Last patch of dew on a tin roof. I was wearing Gore-Tex Combats. My heel caught it. So there's no grip on my heel, on the point of my heel. Well, my foot went out from under me. I went one way, my tools went the other way. Slid down off the roof. Went out about 3 feet. And on my way down, the rope snagged on something on the roof. And it caught me short, and I slammed into the side of the barn.
Yeah, that would hurt.
Yeah, a little bit.
So what brought you to Moncton?
Well, 5 years ago, I was hitchhiking with a girlfriend at the time. Her grandparents live up by City Hospital. So, we were coming down from Kitchener, out in Ontario, and she wanted to see her grandparents. So I said, sure, let's go. So we started hitchhiking. We kept getting bus tickets. We kept getting rides. We kept getting money. It was really good. It was my first time coming out this way instead of going out west. And, we got to Montreal. We got stuck there for about 4 months. I found out afterwards that she'd been cheating on me with every Tom, Dick, and Harry who said, hey, sleep with me.
That's how you're getting all the rides.
Well, it was just in Montreal she was doing that.
Okay.
She was cheating on me with every man who said, hey, come sleep with me. I found that out through a couple of good friends of mine who live in Montreal. So when we got here, I stayed with her another month or so. And we were at a supper done by the House of Nazareth. It was their fall supper. So we're sitting there, and this woman comes in with her friend for the supper. She's not a resident or anything, but she heard there was a supper, so she showed up. Well, she looked at me and says, hey, what's your name? I introduced myself. I introduced my girlfriend. And she introduced herself as Hildy. It's just a nickname she goes by. But ended up breaking up with my girlfriend because I confronted her on the fact that she had been cheating on me for 4 months. So she went back to Ontario. Actually, she's a lesbian now. She's got 2 kids. Yeah, she's got 2 kids with the woman she's with. She's quite happy. And the woman I met at the shelter there, her and I got together, and we ended up having a son 3 years ago. So, yeah, things worked out for the best, I guess.
Your son's still here in Moncton?
Yeah, and lives with his mother.
Yeah?
Yep.
So where are you traveling to? Where's your plans to go now?
My plan is to go to BC.
Go to BC?
Yeah, it's an environment that you can live in all year round outdoors, which is what I prefer to do.
So you're on the road because that's where you want to be.
Yeah, I mean, 10 years ago, I was sitting in my apartment, I was sitting in my room, and I thought, I'm only 16 years old, and I'm already living like I'm 25, 30. I've got a routine, I've got a job, I've got this, I've got that, I've got everything I could possibly want at my disposal at any point in time. What about those people who don't have that? I have all this, but it's starting to feel like a cage. Yeah. So at 16 years old, I took my last welfare check, paid my last bit of rent, packed up a bag, and I started hitchhiking locally around Kitchener, Waterloo, Brampton, Orangeville, Orillia. Eventually, I started going farther. I started going to Muskoka. I started going to Thunder Bay. And then I ended up going out west. I went to Calgary for a few weeks. I came back. I was a little different. And then I went out to Montreal, figured out, hey, this is a party city. I can really get along here.
It's my favorite city to party in.
It really is a good city for it.
It's a good city because it's always got something going on.
Oh yeah, I mean, if it's not the gay pride festivals, if it's not the live performances on Queen Street, you know, there's always something on St. Catharines. St. Catharines Street is like half closed off. It's the gay community, and it's closed off to vehicles. There's always performances. There's always magicians, musicians. You name it, you can find it on that street.
Yeah, last summer, me and my buddy, we went. My buddy was.
I was up there last summer.
Well, last summer, my buddy was living out in Grand Prairie, Alberta, and we were driving across country, coming back home, and he was moving home. And we were coming by Montreal. I said, "You ever been to Montreal?" And he said, "No." I said, "Let's go to Montreal, man." I said, "We're gonna go spend a couple hours in Montreal, so I'm gonna show you St. Catharines Street." So I take him down, and we find a place to park in this underground parking. And we walk out and we start walking. We're going down the road. And the whole street, we were walking for miles. And it was all blocked off. There was no traffic. It was just people walking. There was tons of people. But I started to notice the gay flag everywhere. And I would on all the decks. And I would notice groups of guys, groups of girls. And it was, but I noticed also like teachers coming through, like school kids with like parades of kids walking through here. Yeah. And I'm looking around and I look at them and I'm like, I think we're in the gay district.
Yep.
He's like, what? I was like, yeah, I think we're in the gay district. I go, look at all the signs and look at everything. So anyway, he's a guy that's always been raised, you know, gay is wrong to him. So
men are for women, women are for men.
So he basically, he had a little bit of a freak out. Like his brain was on overload. He didn't know how to handle it. And it was so hot that he's like, we need to go grab a beer. And I was like, okay. He walked in 3 bars, and when he walked in the front door, he turned around, swung right around, and walked right back out. He was like, no way. And I'm like, whatever, man. Like, it's hot. It's like 30-something degrees. Like, I need a cool beer. You know, that's what we came down here for. So anyways, I ended up getting him to sit down at one. And when we left, he's like, yeah, it was interesting. He's like, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it was, you know. It was just that stereotype. And it's the same stereotype with homelessness, basically.
Yeah.
You always think of that guy sitting there holding
he's a druggie.
Yeah, or he's holding like a brown paper bag and he's got a bottle and he's just drunk on the street, you know what I mean? It's like that social image that we've all been fed.
Yeah. See, that's what I wanted to explore. I wanted to see, are all the homeless people like this? Is this really what it is? So I went and I explored it and found out, no, a lot of these guys are high school dropouts or having a hard time holding down a job because of trouble at home, and you know, there's so many different reasons for homelessness. Mine was a choice. I chose to be homeless. I wanted to know who really controlled the cities. You think it's the politicians. You're raised to think it's the police departments. You're raised to think it's those in authority. No, you want to know who really owns a city. Get right down into the nitty gritty of it. You know, get right down into the underbelly. Because chances are, one hobo can't mouth off to another hobo without a hobo on the other end of town hearing about it in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, we move and coordinate ourselves in ways that
I know it's a community.
Most society doesn't think.
It's a community because it went, and the first time I realized it was when I'll never forget it. I used to go out and look for people, and I still do, but when I first started, I would coming through the woods at 3:00 in the morning with a flashlight looking for someone's camp. They think I'm the cops.
You won't find them. No,
No.
not with a flashlight.
Or they're gone. They take off.
Yep.
See you later.
It's like a rabbit, man.
Exactly. So eventually it got to the point where I would yell out, "Hey, hello, my name's Charlie. I'm with the Humanity Project." And it got to the point where somebody came out of their spot, and the first thing they said, they went, "Oh, you're Charlie." And they came right out of their spot. And they looked at me and they go, "I've heard lots about you, my friend." And we hit it right off. And I just remember that, and I was like, it's a sense of community because they're all talking to each other.
Yeah.
So they all know.
Chances are, a new man you're meeting, you're someone they already know.
Yeah.
Because the word gets out. It's like a wildfire.
That's it.
And don't get us wrong. Even in homeless community, there is a hierarchy. There is an order of things.
Oh, I know. I've seen it. It's
a lot like the punk community.
Yeah.
Which is what I'm part of.
It's funny. It's like it's a respect thing too. Like guys usually have a lot of respect for the older guys that have been out there a long time and they know what they're doing.
Yeah, we'll listen to someone who's been out there 35 years quicker than we'll listen to someone who's been out there 2 summers.
Oh yeah, I went to a camp and Buddy had his camp there, and he was out there 35 years. He's been out there 35 years, and he had his camp. And I remember it was like it's like 2 winters ago, and we had a lot of snow. It was last month. We had a lot of snow, and there was probably 4.5 feet of snow all around his camp. And I remember I said to him, I said, "Yeah, let's go. We'll go over to my house, watch a movie, whatever." And he goes, "No, I'm going to stay here and I'm going to dig out around my campsite because all the snow's going to melt. And when it does, I'm going to get flooded. So I don't want to get flooded." And I said, "Oh, it's not going to melt." I said, "Man, like, look at it. We still got 4 feet of snow. It's still cold." I'm not kidding you. I went back there 2 days later and he had a trench dug all around his camp. And then it led out away from his camp. And when I got there 2 days later, there was no snow.
Smart guy.
He knew it was coming. And when he told me that, I thought to myself instantly, I'm never going to try to convince somebody that's been out there that long not to do something and go watch a movie or something stupid when he knows how to survive.
You look at a man who said, and you say, "Hey, it's a bright, beautiful day." If he's been outside long enough and he says, "No, it's going to rain. We got to find somewhere to be." You know why he knows it's going to rain? Chances are he can feel it in his bones, or he's looked up and looked at the leaves and seen them turned inwards, or he's seen the birds flying low.
I've seen him many times look up in the sky and tell me exactly what time it is.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
you live outside long enough, you get a feel for it.
Yeah.
You know, it's, I spent 3 months outside. I just got back from that, actually. I was living out in the woods in Ontario, out in Guelph, and spent 3 months outside. Got to a point where I'd walk into a building, somebody had asked someone what time it was, and I go, about 2:30. Sure enough, it'd be 2:30, 2:32.
Yeah.
Scientifically speaking, if you live outside for a week and just let yourself go back to nature, it resets your internal clock. It resets you as a person, and you feel better, you feel stronger, you feel healthier, you feel sharper, like mentally.
Yeah. That's why after wintertime people feel a lot better. So spring comes and the sun's out and it's hot, it's like it's a mental boost for everybody.
Reset.
Yeah. It's like a reset. Exactly, it's a reset. What so yesterday I recorded you playing piano. You came in, you were playing piano. How long have you been playing?
Well, that started when I was in a group home. I was about 6 years old. And there was a piano down in the basement of a church I went to, Vineland Pentecostal Church, out in Vineland, Ontario. And, well, I started playing the piano, and the first key I hit sounded really nice, so I hit a key right next to it, hit them together, it didn't sound so good. So I started spacing them out a little bit. And eventually I just started playing around and playing with notes and different sounds. And well, the pastor came downstairs. He looked at my foster dad and said, "Neil, I didn't know you played piano." Well, Neil looked at him and says, "It's not me, it's him." And he pointed at me. That was 20 years ago.
So you're self-taught.
Yep.
Self-taught at it. You're pretty good. I could hear you. I was sitting here in the office, and I could hear you playing. And I was like, I'm going to go out and see who's playing. Because we have guys that come in here once in a while. And they'll come in with their guitars. They'll come in with, their trumpets. Or get on the old piano over there and start rocking out. And it's
I love trumpet.
Really?
Yeah. First instrument I started playing in high school. My teacher, actually, the only way I passed my music class was having a jam sesh with my teacher.
Really?
Yeah, we both play trumpet. That was his instrument of choice. He says he's been teaching for 28 years, and I was the most lyrical trumpet player he'd ever had the pleasure of playing with. I didn't know what that meant at the time, but I looked into the phrase years later, and it turns out that just means you can make the trumpet talk. You can make it really sing. You're not just playing it. You're having a conversation with it. So.
Yeah. Well, we were talking earlier. You were saying about your son playing.
Yeah, plays harmonica.
Yeah.
Plays it well.
So when you look at kids and you look at musical talent, do you think musical talent is taught, or do you think it's just passed on through your DNA? And
well, I believe a lot of talent of any variety. It's a lot of genetic memory, because some people are more predisposition towards orchestrating, some people are more towards playing, some people are better at building, some people are better at designing.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of genetic memory goes through the generations and says you're going to be more inclined to be able to do this.
Well, there's a podcast, Joe Rogan Experience, I listened to, and it's he had a guy on there, I think it was Russell Carlson, who was talking about transmorphism. And what they did is, the Soviets back in the day, and they've done many tests on this, was they took rats and they put them through a series of tests in a maze. And one way got you food, the other way got you shocked. And they took so many rats, and it took the rats like 250 times to be able to get through the maze without being shocked. So then they took those rats and they bred them with other rats that had been through the maze. And then they also took the sperm of the rats and bred them with rats who had never been through the maze. And then they tested the babies and they put them through the same maze. And the next generation, it would take 200 times. The next generation would take less. It didn't matter if they were bred with ones that had been through before or ones that had never been through before. The next generations were all learning, so it gives kind of like proof to the point that it is passed down through your genetics. Another thing they know is it's like when the Wright brothers or Thomas Edison or any of these people came up with great ideas in the world, there was somebody else out there who came up with the exact same idea, but it was just a little off from the other.
Yeah, like Alexander Graham Bell. Came up with the telephone. Well, kids were already using cords and cups to talk to each other across the yard.
Yeah, and you look at it like what they know too is these monkeys that were on an island. They learned how to kill and clean fish. And when they learned how to do it, catch them, kill them, and clean them. When they figured it out, the monkeys who had no interaction with them whatsoever on the coast, who were like 10 miles off, instantly knew how to do it. They started learning how to do it. It's like collective knowledge is passed on through us all. Mm-hmm. That's why rats, anybody that kills rats or is in the rodent business, will tell you that if you take, let's say, bacon-flavored rat poison and you start using it here in Moncton and it starts killing rats, the rats in PEI, St. John, and Fredericton and all surrounding areas will stop eating bacon-flavored rat poison because they know it's going to kill you if you eat it. That's why rat poison They now have to make it odorless, tasteless, and it has to be long lasting. Because if the rat dies over a course of 7 days, it doesn't know what it ate over those 7 days that killed it. Therefore, the other ones aren't going to know. And it can't have a taste or anything like that. It's like collective knowledge passed on through people or through animals.
No, I believe people can do much the same thing.
So do I, because that's what I mean. You look at the musical aspect of it.
Or even my granddad. He built furniture for Durham Furniture. He built furniture for them from the day they opened to the day he died. I've never taken any courses, never looked online, but I know how to build china cabinets. I can build TV stands, couches, tables, chairs. I know how to do all the old woodworking tricks like the tongue and groove, and it's strange, but
It's just stuff that you naturally have.
yeah,
That you learned somewhere along the line. Yeah, well,
it's like survival skills.
you look at the dark, right? Why are we scared of the dark? Why are humans scared of the dark? Why are some? It's because at one time you had to worry about lions and tigers and shit eating you, like in the dark. You know.
At one point, there were nocturnal hunters that, well, human was just on the menu.
Exactly. So that deep-seated fear came from past generations of having to watch out for what's in the dark.
But
maybe.
do you ever wonder why some people just are totally unafraid of the dark, or why some people see better in the dark?
No.
Like personally,
If
I see better in the dark out in the middle of the woods than I see in the middle of the day in the middle of a city.
Okay, but if you look at traits of people that are passed down through certain civilizations, like Eskimos. Eskimos eat a lot of seal and fat and stuff like that. But what would take 20 minutes for my hands to get frostbite would take 4 hours for an Eskimo's hands to get frostbite, because they're adapted to that.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're outside at night, because you're used to being outside at night and being out of the city and camping in the woods, your eyes are probably more well adjusted. They've adapted to that type of lifestyle. You know what I mean? It's like the guy that can swim in cold temperatures.
Iceman.
Yeah, exactly. He
does fire meditation, raises his internal body temperature because it's been passed down through his genes to have that ability.
Well, you ever see Stan Lee's Superhuman?
No, I haven't.
There's a show. It's called Stan Lee's Superhuman, and they go around the world and they find people that have remarkable traits. There's a guy that I've seen. They call him Hammerhead, and he takes a great big spike nail, sticks it in a board, and he just starts smashing it with his forehead. Well, when they took him in for testing, his skull is like 4 times thicker than a normal person's skull. And then they took another person, the guy that can run, this Running Man is I think what they called him.
Yeah, he's like a eternal running battery.
He doesn't stop and when they tested him, what they figured out is whatever your body, I can't remember what it's called, but whatever your body produces to make you tired after you run and cause fatigue in your muscles, his body is burning that up as fast as it's producing it. So he doesn't get tired. Because in the thing, they had him run like 80 kilometers. He ran the 80 kilometers, and they're like, okay, we'll drive you back. And he's like, no, I'll run home. And they're like, are you sure? And he's like, yep. And he just took off and started running back. He wasn't tired. And it's like, that's a pretty cool show because it shows a lot of adaptations through DNA and people just genetically modified, well, naturally modified, I guess, because they're born that way.
Yeah, I know a fella. His name is
Just genetically
Albert
superior.
Corral. He runs every day, and he had to have a surgery done on his knees. Well, they were cutting the muscle tissue, and just as quick as the knife was passing, the muscle tissue was fusing back together behind the blade. Because his muscles were so well developed and so well kept that they refused to be broken.
What's his name?
Albert Corral.
Albert Corral.
He's not on any website or anything. He's a very personal, quiet guy. He's actually he's one of the founders of a group home I was in called Little House Residential Care in Smithville, Ontario.
So, let me ask you a question. When you're traveling around, you've been in group homes, you've been in shelters, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
What do you see a lot of similarities between them?
When I walk down the street, I can tell who's been in a group home. I can tell who's been in shelters for long periods of time. Mostly the systems are all the same. They ask you the same questions. What's your name? Where are you from? Where are you heading? How long you staying? What do you need? Are you hungry? Um, it's pretty much all the same everywhere you go. They want to tend to your basic needs. They don't care about your further needs. If you want a house, go and find a way. If you want a job, here's some numbers to call. You want a room, here's some numbers to call. Most common one is, are you collecting welfare?
Yeah.
You know, they all want to know about the money and the statistics, and they
They
want to
just
know
want to
about
throw
that
you
stuff.
into the system on
Yeah.
assistance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I can tell who's been in a group home because every child, every person who's been in a group home's got a look on their face, a look in their eyes, a way they carry themselves that just screams, I used to be an attention seeker and now I'm not, because I realize no one's giving attention, no one gives a damn. There's a look on the face that just says, I was forgotten by someone who wasn't supposed to forget me. It's really sad to see, and when you start talking to them and they actually open up about it, you know, me personally, I can say I've been there. I know what you're going through. I know better than most how you feel about that. But they're all the same. You're just another number in a group home. You're just another paycheck in foster care. You're just another statistic in the board on the board for how many people this shelter's helped, how many people that shelter helped.
It's all a numbers game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're just another fancy little statistic they can stick up on their board with a shiny little star going, "Hi, look what we did."
Yeah. The one thing I hate the most, and I use the word hate, is the word client.
That's a pretty strong word.
I know, but it's the word client. I hate when someone says an organization's.
Way to make me feel like I just walked into a bank.
Yeah,
Ugh.
Exactly. But I hate
I'm
that.
not dressed for this.
You know, they'll call me and they'll be like, Charlie, we got a mutual client. And I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, we got a mutual client. I'm like, who are you talking about? And they'll tell me the person's name, and I'm like, oh, you mean a friend of mine, or that friend of mine. That's a friend. You guys are my friends. I don't consider anybody a client, because to me, once you start calling them clients, they're a number on a wall, and people are not numbers. People are names, and people are people.
People are individual entities, living beings that deserve respect.
That's 100%. 100% deserve respect.
Even in jail, I was in Maplehurst for 20 days. Even in there, people had respect for each other as human beings. Yeah. You weren't just number 3678. You know, you were this guy or that guy.
Well, that's the thing. Like this place, as you notice, we don't have no rules on the wall.
I saw that.
We have no rules anywhere.
I also noticed you ain't had no arguments. You ain't had no fights.
No, it's
not in the few days I've been coming here anyway.
No, and it's because to me, it's why give people rules? I'd rather give them choices. You know, if you come in drunk, and I come in drunk, and I'm acting like an asshole, well, then I'm gonna be told that I can't come back in drunk because I act like an asshole when I'm drunk. But you can still come in drunk and get something to eat, because you know what? We still believe you need to eat. People still need to have food. They still need to eat,
especially when you're drunk.
Yeah, exactly. I always
you
get
gotta get some. You got. You know what? Smoking pot or drinking. You gotta have something to eat, because you gotta. Yeah. They go hand in hand.
Yeah, they go hand. I agree. After a good night out, I don't go out too often anymore, but.
No, neither do I. I got 3 kids.
I just don't go. I just don't have the time. But when I do go out, I do like to munch out after I'm done at the end of the night. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, last call comes and you're just like, okay, one more, and then I'm going to the dollar store for some food, or the corner store.
Last time I left the bar, they had a peanut machine that gave hot peanuts, and I walked out and there was like these little cups you throw $1 in and it shoots out like a cup load of hot peanuts or whatever. And when I walked out of the bar, I had like 8 cups in my hands. I was holding them because it was the only thing they had to eat in the bar. And I was like, last call, see you later. And I was just munching on peanuts.
Nice.
But
I like chip nuts myself, but those are good.
Yeah, those are good. I had corn nuts the other day. They were pretty good too. I tried them for the first time.
They are good.
Yeah. So what's the plan? Actually, let me ask you something. Have you stayed at many shelters?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? What do you think about the shelters in Canada in general?
In the first 4 years that I was doing the homeless thing, I resorted to shelters because I wasn't so well attuned to living outside. And Shelters are all pretty much the same. They suck. Because you're sleeping in a room packed full of other guys, sleeping like sardines. You got Buddy with the rancid feet just over there. You got Buddy snoring like a friggin' lawnmower just below you. You get in to the rooms. People are chatting about their day, bitching about this, that, and the other thing for 8-9 hours. And you fall asleep around 2. You're woken up at 5:30 to be out by 6. Nothing's open till 9. You gotta be back by 5:30, 6. And in Ontario, one shelter I was staying at, you were out at 5 in the morning. You had to be back at 1 in the afternoon. That leaves no time whatsoever to go out to welfare appointments, to do doctor's appointments, to do anything.
Yeah.
They're all the same.
That's why like, I don't know if I was telling you what we're doing, but like the 31 little units we want to put out there out on the ice shed, they're all going to have their own kitchenette, little bathroom, and living quarters, because I don't want to stack people on top of each other, and I also don't want to keep people here for 10 years. I want to help them with whatever it is. If they need time and they go to addiction services and they're waiting to get into, let's say, the farm, and it's going to take another month, well, they have a place to stay where they don't have to worry about being in a rooming house with 10 other guys drinking and doing drugs while they're trying to stay clean. If it's somebody that needs to come here until they find a job again and get back on their feet and get their damage deposit, whatever it is, that's how we want to prevent it.
I mean, I did meth for 5 years.
Yeah.
I was stuck
Meth's
on...
a killer, man.
I was on methamphetamines for 5 years.
Were you smoking it?
I was smoking it. I was snorting it. The only thing I wasn't doing was shooting it.
You want to know something? Meth is the one thing that it really scares the shit out of me, because
you get one bad batch, you're dead.
Yeah, but in the last 5 months, out on the streets at night and talking to people and homeless or working the streets not to stay homeless or whatever it is, I've come across more people smoking meth in the last 5 months in our city than I have over the course of the last probably 2 years easily. Whoever's making meth or selling it in our city, well, they're a real piece of shit, because meth is probably the worst thing.
I've had friends who started meth the same time as I did. Thankfully, I've been clean for 7 years now. My daughter was born and I quit cold turkey, because nothing's more important than family to me, and it's always been that way. I may not be around them all the time, but they're still the most important thing to me.
Yeah.
But he started around the same time I did. He kept going with it. Well, now he's got no teeth. He's thin as a rail, and if he's still alive, he doesn't remember his name. Doesn't know what year it is. Well,
there's that website.
He has to have someone come in and trim his nails so he doesn't cut himself to pieces picking at himself.
Well, yeah, because there's that. You ever see that site, Faces of Meth? I think is what it's called, and it shows people's mugshots, and then it'll show before and after for years, and like over the course of like 2 years.
I saw an article in the paper about it about a year back. It showed a picture of a woman before she was doing meth, and after she had been doing meth for a while, and it was just astounding. She was just a skeletal shell of
but that's
what
the thing.
She was.
I know people that smoke crack. I know people that are snorting cocaine, and I don't just mean like guys
They're burying their face in a pile.
Yeah, but I'm not just talking. Yeah, I'm not talking just about guys in our city who are living outside in the woods. I'm talking about guys who run our city and are fucking dressed in business suits. You know what I mean? So there's no difference. But
hey, if the devil doesn't take favorites,
that's it, my friend. That's it. And the whole thing is, you look at it and you go, okay, coke's been around a while, crack's been around a while, pot, all that stuff in our city. Okay, it's not good for our city. But meth is the fucking devil. And I try not to swear here, but that is like... That's a devil, man.
I've had people tell me, no, you don't want to snort meth anymore, man. Trust me, it's like snorting the devil's dick.
Yeah.
It is a sharp.
It's funny. I've heard other people
painful-
say that exact same thing.
It's like snorting a devil's dick.
Yeah.
It's terrible. You get a chemical drip in the back of your throat after you snort it, and it is the most bitter thing ever. It's like if you were to take my tobacco pipe there and suck all the nicotine tar out of it and just let it sit on your tongue for a while.
Yeah.
It's just outrageously gross.
It's funny. It's funny because you just said that, and I've heard somebody else say that, and then I know a girl that had a case, and it said the devil's dick on it. I was like, what is that? And she opened it up, and it was her meth pipe and her needle and everything. And she's like, because I can't stop. So that's why I call it this. And I was like, so when you said that, it was kind of funny to me because she had it written on that actual case.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked her when she opened it up, that's what was in it. But
well, that's a term that's been around longer than I have.
what do you think? What do you think about when it comes to like legalization of drugs? Okay, so you see people out in the street, and I know a guy personally that was out on the street because of circumstance, and this is before we were feeding people here, and he literally he started drinking so that he could ask people for change at night so that he could get something to eat. Well, his drinking to eat at night every day after a while, if he didn't drink, his hands were shaking. So then, eventually, he's an alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's a slow step.
so here's my question, though. At that point, is it addiction or is it survival? Because you need to eat, but you can't bring yourself to drop your dignity level to ask people, hey, you got any change? Because you feel bad about it, so you have to get a buzz on. Because I'm pretty sure
At this
anybody
point-
listening to this could agree that it's easier to ask somebody for money if you're drunk or high
Or
than
not
if you
of
were
sound
sober.
mind.
Yeah.
Well, I do it sober, but that's just me. I have no dignity. Quite proud of this fact. I walked into this world and left my dignity at the door.
Yeah.
No, it is easier to do when you're loaded or when
you get a
you're
buzz on.
high. Yeah, it's easier with a buzz because then they're passing by and you're like, hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
Got change? You know, but
Do you busk at all?
I do.
You do
I
busk?
I sing.
You sing?
Yeah.
Nice.
Kind of what I do. I do Jim Morrison and every now and again you might catch me doing Frank Sinatra.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice. Nice. I can see you doing Sinatra with that hat.
course.
That's sweet, man.
So
So,
it's for put it at a cocky angle here and just
so you told me last night that you said something to me yesterday after supper. I was talking about how some people don't want to come in here, and it takes them a couple days to come in through the door because they feel like it's like all the other places.
yeah. I contemplated the same thing. I thought you guys would just go through the motions of tell me what I want to hear and give me hope, only to say, oh well, your requests are a little out of our reach or something like that. And then I actually came in and, well, the first thing you said to me was, yeah, no shit. I'm like, this guy runs this place?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, your blunt and blatant approach to things and your just the realness that you express. You are completely following what you set out to do. If you were any more transparent, you'd be translucent. Okay.
Thanks, man.
I'd be able to tell you if you had a blood clot forming somewhere. You know?
Yeah.
It's-
If you're any more transparent, you'd be translucent. I like that. That's a good one. No, it's just about helping people. It's like, the one thing I see is we've brought a community together and we're getting them to work together, and we're doing all this without government funding, and we're doing it just off the backs of our community, and we're doing it all out of love.
You know what you're doing, I haven't seen anyone else do. I've been traveling across Canada for 10 years. I've met groups that have said, this is our mission, and just crumbled. They become so self-seeking and self-serving. It's unreal. You guys have been open for 2 years, and you're so quiet about it. Like, I've been here in the past 2 years. I didn't even know about you.
Well, we only got the building in December, but we were out on the street, and that's it. I was running out of my house.
Yeah, I didn't know about you guys. You're
Like,
so quiet and discreet about it, but you're also the only group I've ever heard of that does things the way you do and has as many connections as you do. You're a veritable cornucopia of spider webs woven for the safety of and helping of the homeless. It's
Yeah.
amazing that you would find carpenters and construction workers and just all these little nooks and crannies that you guys seem to find your way into. It almost makes me wonder if you yourself haven't been homeless and had to go about things in that way.
you know, I've never been homeless, but if it wasn't for my friends and my family, there's many times in my life where I would have been homeless. I know what it's like to have nothing to eat. I know what it's like to wait for an unemployment check. I know what it's like to be the working poor and working my ass off and then getting laid off and, waiting for a month and a half for an unemployment check to help me out because I don't want to go on assistance and because I worked and, that's what that money's there for and it takes me a month and a half and yet my landlord doesn't give a shit because my landlord still needs its payment and guess what? I still need groceries in my house. So
It's a vicious cycle.
yeah, and I understand that, but I actually had this discussion with a guy the other day that's he's out there, he's homeless, and he said to me, we consider you one of us. And I said, yeah. I said, well, I love all you guys. And he said, no. He said, you probably spent as many hours outside at night. He goes, you're working during the day, you're doing the office or whatever, and you're feeding people, and you're going out at night finding people. And he goes, you probably spend as many hours at night as most homeless people. And I was like, yeah, and that's a good point because I've spent entire nights outside just searching for people.
The fact that you actually go out and search for people, no other place does that. Everywhere else just sticks a bunch of signs places where they think they'll be seen.
Yeah.
But not you. You go out there into the woods. You go out there into the bog. You go out there into the fields. Into the places where most people don't think homeless people would go. Somebody walking down the street dressed well in a well-off situation isn't gonna look out at the woods and go, oh, there's homeless people out there. They're gonna think, oh, I wouldn't want to be out there at night. Why would anyone be out there at night?
Yeah.
I've been on both sides of the fence.
Yeah.
I've been the rich kid and I've been the homeless boy.
Yeah.
So
You see it for
I
what
have
it
a
is.
pretty unique perspective on it. It's and I don't say this to brag either. I've been the guy giving out the $20 bills. And I've been the guy damn near crying who's getting the $20 bill.
Yeah.
I've had people show me compassion that I didn't think existed anymore.
Yeah.
And it's from people like you.
Well, it's at the end of the day, I don't want to worry about where my next meal's coming from like the seniors we're feeding today are. I don't want my daughter or your children or anybody else's children having to worry about putting their head down on a cold piece of cement because to me, like I went out for the government for this group, I don't know, 2 months ago to find homeless people and I found 17 homeless people in one night outside sleeping and I could have found, and there was 2 more that I went to their location and they weren't there, but yeah, to find 17 people sleeping outside at night that would rather sleep outside in minus 20, minus 30 in a tent or with no tent, just a tarp, than use one of our city services or shelters, then to me, that tells me it's not a problem with the people, it's a problem with our city services.
I would much rather sleep out than in a shelter.
Oh, I know.
Winter, summer, fall, spring, doesn't matter. It could be raining, could be snowing.
Oh, no, I know. I know a couple guys like you. They're more like Les Stroud type dudes, and they they prefer the outside. That's their thing.
Well,
But
it's not even that it's a preference. It's I don't deal well with the system. I don't deal well with the people in the system. And I don't deal well with being told this is the routine, you follow it or you're out. Because chances are I'm going to break your routine in one way or another.
that's why I don't like rules and I like choices. What you just said. I'll say it. I don't even care. I'm just going to say it anyways. But, we were told not to house people here over the winter. I can tell you this. I didn't leave anybody sitting in a snowbank. And whether you want me to write up dream studies from their studies they did, or you know, I'll hire them to do sleep studies. I'll hire them to test out the beds to make sure they're comfortable for our tiny homes. But I'm not leaving somebody out in the street. That's not going to happen. My heart won't let me do it. You know, it's
You could even go so far as to call it a social experiment in whatever field you deem it fit to call it.
yeah. But that's one of our taglines I actually used on a video
You're
once.
not a social
I said we're not a social
experiment.
experiment, because you see these people on YouTube and they go up and they give somebody a sandwich and they're like, "Oh, look at me, you know, we're helping the homeless." And yeah, that's great. Go look at their other videos. They're prank videos. They're stupid videos. They're videos because they want to throw that homeless video in there to get more views and show that they're helping somebody. But it's not about helping somebody. That's why on all of our videos, it took me the first, like, I do the videos, and it took me, I'll never forget it, like 2 weeks to blur the faces in the first video I ever did. And I had to teach myself how to do it, and I did it. And it was tedious, and it took forever.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, it's about having human decency while still educating the public. It's not about showing people's faces, because if I put you in a video and I get you a job, I don't want the guy at your job going, "Hey, that's the guy from the video." But I do want the guy at your job knowing, "Hey, we have an issue with homelessness, and by working together, here's some solutions to fix it."
Yeah. See, I was thinking about eventually getting myself set up with a web camera
Yeah.
and having that on my person at all times, and going around and making a small documentary called, A Week in the Life of a Homeless Man.
Yeah.
Because you'd be surprised just how much a homeless man struggles to get to point A to point B. I mean, sure, you're on one end of the city, your appointment's on the other. Well, let's say you've got blisters on your feet, you got a bad knee, or you got some kind of mobility issue. You flag down a bus driver opens the door, you step in, say, "I don't have money, but I need to get to my appointment. I have this problem with my foot, I have this problem with my knee," or whichever problem you have. Do you know how heartbreaking it is? How discouraging it is when that bus driver goes, "Nope."
Yeah.
Tells you to get off the bus.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an issue for sure, you know. It takes your dignity and kind of just crushes it.
Yeah, that's why I left my dignity at the door. When I left that little apartment in Kitchener.
First time I stuck my foot in a bus, I said, "That's it."
Yeah.
Dignity at the door.
No, when I left that little apartment down in Kitchener on Queen Street, just above the Queen Street Commons Cafe, I left my dignity in the closet. I'm pretty sure I can go back and get it anytime I like, but I don't want it.
Yeah.
You gotta be undignified sometimes to get through.
Yeah.
You gotta have zero dignity and a really high tolerance sometimes to get by.
Yeah.
You think you got dignity if you're walking down the side of the highway backwards, facing the traffic with your arm stuck out and your thumb up? You got no dignity there.
Yeah.
All you got to work with is a smile on your face, and hopefully someone's got a kind heart.
Yeah. You know, and so that brings me to another. Like, I lived out in Calgary. I lived in a place called Okotoks, and I traveled through like BC and stuff like that. And I've been all through the rest of the country, and I've met people from all walks of life, from all different cities. Do you notice a difference in people from the East Coast to the West Coast?
Oh yeah.
What's the biggest difference?
Attitude.
Attitude?
Yep.
Why?
Well, here on the East Coast, everybody's very proud of their heritage. Everybody's very proud of their French. They're very proud of their community. And on the West Coast, you got people more proud of their land. They're more proud of their achievements. They're more proud of their religion. They're more proud of their faith.
The truck they drive.
The truck they drive, how big their belt buckle is, how many beers they can drink. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, when I was living out there,
See,
I'll split this with you.
There's one thing about the Central Province, Ontario, where I'm from. It's literally the province that will make or break you.
Especially if you're traveling across it. When I drove back from Calgary,
Oh, it's one of the biggest to drive across.
well, we took 3 of us and drove a car across.
Mm-hmm.
When we drove that car across, it took us 47 and a half hours from Calgary to Moncton, New Brunswick. I didn't reset the time on the car, on the clock, or anything for the time differences. And when we hit Kenora, Ontario, until we hit the Quebec border, was 24 hours of our drive.
Yup.
It was 24 hours exactly.
Of wilderness.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's a 24-hour drive.
I never drove through Ontario and never seen have never gone and not seen a bear. I always see bears.
Yeah. It's a 24-hour drive through wilderness and backcountry.
Oh, yeah.
How many houses did you see?
Well, it just depends where you're at, but it's all twisty, turns.
Yeah.
And it's all 90 kilometers. And like
now,
I said,
on that last little stretch, that last about 2-hour stretch between the border and 2 hours from the border into Ontario, there's almost no gas stations. There's almost no houses. That's just solid wildlife. And I've had the displeasure of being stuck hitchhiking on that part of the highway.
yeah, lots of bears.
It was -4. -4, that's where I had hand warmers and foot warmers.
I was just about to say, last night when, before you hit the road, you asked me if I have a survival bag, and I was telling you some of the stuff I had in it, like, hand warmers and foot warmers, and you're like, those saved my life.
They really did. It was -4. I was out in the middle of nowhere. You stop if it's -4 at 8:30 at night, and the coldest hour is between 3 and 4 in the morning, and it's already -4. It went down to about -16 with a wind chill of -8.
Yeah.
You damn straight I had. That saved my life. I put about 6 of them against my chest, did my coat up around me, took my sweater, tucked it over my knees, dug out a little trench in a snowbank or snowdrift right out by the road. Far enough away I wasn't going to get splashed if a plow went by. But I put my tarp down on the bottom of it, pulled my hood up over my face, brought my arms inside the hoodie, put my hands up like this so every time I exhale, I'm exhaling out onto my knuckles through the gloves.
Yeah.
And those hand warmers, they last 12 hours.
Yeah.
So I waited till about midnight to put them in. So
Keep you warm.
yeah, it kept me warm, all right.
It's funny because I've seen so many different survival techniques. I know a guy that took his jacket. He had like 4 jackets on, but in between his jackets, he would stuff newspaper.
It's a good insulator.
Yeah, and he stuffed it between them all of them. And when I brought him to my house, and he was getting ready to take a shower, and I was grabbing a towel and just cleaning up the bathroom or whatever, and I turned around, and it startled me because I thought somebody else was in my house for a second because he looked like he lost 200 pounds. Because he had 4 huge jackets on, and when I looked,
newspaper.
and when I looked, it was just his 4 jackets sitting there, and a pile, and I mean a pile of newspapers and like magazines and everything just ripped up and all crumpled together, and I was like, where the hell did that all come from? And he's like, oh, I put it in between my jackets as an insulator. I was like, really? He's like, yeah, it works great.
Well, if you look at a hamster, how do they sleep? They sleep curled up in the shavings, right?
Yeah.
Same idea.
Yeah, it works.
It's an insulator. That's like, you can sleep in a snowbank. You tunnel it in.
Yeah. Just like
Snow's
an igloo,
an
right?
amazing insulator.
Yeah. Yeah. Because when I was a kid, I used to, like, the plow trucks would come down. I lived in the country, and they would build us a great big,
We had like 13-foot drift out by our house in Durham.
Yeah, so I would just get in there and start kicking it with my feet, and then get down and start digging it out, kicking it with my feet, get down in there, and I would get down as far as I could, and you get in there, and even if there was 2 or 3 of you in there, it would warm up pretty quick.
5 minutes, the 3 of you in there, you're taking your jacket off.
Yeah, it's kind of neat. It's same with tents. I know guys that when they put tents out in the winter, they'll cover them in a tarp, but they insulate and pack them right with snow. They'll get stuff to like make sure that holds the load and help keep.
Oh
up
yeah,
the tents,
they'll lay. Usually it's pine branches or something along the sides of the tent. They'll dig them into the snow so they don't kick up and fall in.
Yeah.
But yeah, they'll pack it with about half a foot, maybe 4 inches of snow. They'll throw a tarp over it, and that's gonna be a warm tent.
Yeah.
You get your crew in there. That's a punk term. We don't have groups. We have crews. You know, me and my crew's mostly in Montreal, but no, you get your crew in there and it'll warm up quick. If it's a 4-man tent and you get 5 men in there, well, not only is the guy in the middle being really warm, yeah, you take turns in the middle, you rotate throughout the night.
The is it when you head out of here? Is that where you're gonna head first, Montreal, or are you gonna go right straight to Ontario?
Well, my best wish, and I know it's not gonna happen, but my best wish is I catch a trucker at the stop that I'm going to.
Yeah.
That's going straight through, all the way to BC, or at least to Calgary.
Yeah. You want to get it west.
Yeah, but what's probably going to end up happening is I'm going to get a ride out to Montreal.
Try to find a ride from there.
Gonna have to walk through the city, which takes about 4 hours. Gonna have to cross a bridge that you can't cross unless you have a ride, because there's no walking on the bridges. I mean, you can walk on the Jean Cartier. I rollerbladed across the Jean Cartier. Actually, I rollerbladed from...
Which bridge is it that you need to go?
You need to cross the Jean Cartier Bridge to get this way, or to get that way. Because it connects the mainland to the island. Yeah. Montreal is an island.
Mm-hmm. What's the bridge that goes underneath the water?
Underneath the water? That's the tunnel.
The tunnel.
You can actually take a subway. You take the subway system.
To Jean Parc Drapeau?
Is that the university there?
That's the island that sits out there and has the exhibition center and
No,
stuff.
it goes past that.
Goes past that?
Yeah.
I took the subway there before.
There's a stop there. But no, it goes past that. It goes all the way out. You can take that line, transfer to the green line, and go all the way out to the other end if you want. But, no, I'll dance my way through the city. Literally, if I have to.
Yeah. You know where you're going.
Yeah, I'll sing, dance, shout, hoot, and holler all I need to get to where I'm going.
So, one thing I want to ask you, I'm trying to ask this to most people that have experienced homelessness. In your opinion...
Oh, it's not an experience for me, it's a life. I say that because I chose it.
I like that. Well, exactly. It's a choice.
It's not circumstantial.
But you have seen a lot of people where it isn't a choice for them.
Yeah.
So, what do you think our government or the people of our country can do to fix this issue?
They need to stop calling it the homeless problem. They need to stop calling it the homeless issue. They need to stop associating anything negative with homeless. Because, yeah, it is a negative thing, but a lot of people are choosing it, and a lot of people prefer it to the government system. What the government needs to do is all those multi-millions of dollars they're spending on expanding the fucking highways, or on building new freeways, or on building new casinos. They need to take a portion of that money, and I know there's already a portion being thrown into shelters, which more often than not is being pocketed good 80% of. They need to start throwing that at private contractors. They need to start throwing that at construction workers.
Like affordable housing.
They need to start opening up the condemned buildings, fixing the problems, and opening that up as geared to income housing. There's enough houses here in Moncton to house every homeless person and then some.
Yeah.
There's enough rundown houses in Kitchener to house 1/10 of the homeless population in Ontario. Yeah. We've got entire apartment buildings condemned because there's a little bit of mold in the walls, or because there's an electrical issue that can be fixed by somebody who knows what they're doing, or because the plumbing went all wonky on them. Yeah. If you can get more people into trades, and more people in trades into fixing and refurbishing these places, well, your homeless problem ain't gonna be so much of a problem no more, and it's gonna cost you a fraction of the price of keeping them in the shelters or in jail.
And that's the thing. They say it costs $130,000 roughly each and every year, according to some statistics. that for all the homeless people, for each homeless person that's on the streets, because of the cost of police services, hospital, ambulances, fire services,
Actually,
all
if you
that
want
stuff.
some solid numbers, there's a movement going on in Guelph. One of the heads of this movement is named Mary.
That's the one I'm going to get in touch with that you told me.
20K Homes
Yeah.
movement. I was a keynote speaker there because apparently I'm a veteran of being homeless.
Yeah, you've been doing it a while.
10 years by choice. Oh, in those 10 years, I've had women offer me to stay with them. I've had men offer me to stay with them. And yes, in the sense you're thinking. I've had women and men offer. And trust me, they're both cute, but no, I prefer to live outside. I've had people offer to house me and have me do something with my music. You know, I've had somebody in Guelph offer to house me until I get something done with my music, which can take years. And they offered to house me right up until I actually made a name for myself. I had to turn it down. It's not where my heart is. My heart's outside. My heart's out around the people.
You're a free spirit.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay, well, we'll end this podcast. That's been an awesome conversation. The only reason I'm ending it is because I want to take you out to the trailer and find you a sleeping bag and some good stuff.
Get her done.
And help you get along on your way to on the road.
As that one crazy redneck comedian once said, get her done.
That's right. Anyways, my friend, thank you so much. And I appreciate the knowledge you shared. I just appreciate sitting in. I appreciate just meeting you, man. I'm happy you walked in here yesterday.
I am absolutely blown away by what you do and who you help and how you help.
Thanks.
I'm actually honored and humbled that I met you. You brought me back down to earth.
Thanks a lot, my friend. Shut this off and then we'll check out the trailer.
Alright. See if we can get me a fresher look than the Beetlejuice look, huh?
Yeah. Get